guys, Colorado Jeep Guy here. Today I'm going to do another DIY project, and it involves replacing these soundbar speakers. Now, if you can't tell already, they're kind of dead. They blew. I like loud music. This happens if you play it too loud too often. So I'm going to put new ones in today. I've got my new ones ready. They're aftermarket speakers to complement the system that I've already got installed, but you kind of need to know how to do this. Now, these speakers are usually covered by some type of screen or coverage, and you have to remove that. And you have to do that by either friction, putting a little screwdriver in and popping it off, or you can unscrew it from the plate that's on there. Now, it might be attached to the system that's holding the speaker in the housing, or it may be separate screws. Either way, that screen has to come off. After that screen comes off, then you're going to want to look at these screws, and you're going to take them out with a screwdriver, Phillips head or flathead. So if you take a close look, now I've got a little optional screwdriver size here. Well, that looks like it fits fairly well, so I'm going to put that in there. My screwdriver that I choose has a magnetic tip because I drop things all the time. I'm going to pull these out. These are going to be in the housing. You can tell that they're really seated nicely. And excellent. And there's your screw, and I've got 4 of them in this particular soundbar housing. We're going to remove all these, and we'll skip ahead so you don't have to watch me taking out each and every one of these. Okay, take extra precautions when you're removing this final screw. This piece is going to want to fall out, so be careful you don't let it fall to the ground. So hold it in however you'd like. This speaker that I'm taking out is absolutely no good, and you can see that it's got some special components to it. I'm going to save my screw in case the new box didn't provide them, which it usually does. So you can see this one has a special amplifier attached to it. It's very, very easy to remove this, and there are my speaker wires. I'm going to remove those as well as remove this speaker. Wow, this speaker really is falling apart. Man, it's falling into my bag and everything. Tell us that guy. And once I get these out, I'll be ready to install the new speaker. Now, something you might want to do, and it's a really good idea every time you work with an electrical component to your car, is disconnect the positive side of your battery so you're not dealing with live wires. I've done that ahead of time, so we don't have to worry about that right now. So let's finish the install of the new ones. So now we already have this other side taken care of, and we have the wires ready for the new install. All you're going to do is repeat the same process for this side. We'll skip ahead to the unveiling of the new speakers and show you the install of those guys. I want to take a minute to talk about the product. So I use Kicker. Kicker has started to come out with a lot of Jeep products. They have a pre-enclosed subwoofer, and it's got a cone that is rubberized instead of the typical foam. These last a lot longer. These make really good sound for the Jeep. They fit behind your seat, and they just are really tolerable speakers. These are the complementary Kicker speakers here that are going to go in my soundbar overhead. Now, what you want to notice is, you'll notice that I've got 225 watt peak. You don't really need to go by the max wattage when you're talking about your factory speakers and you're not amplifying it. You really need to concentrate on what the RMS is. And the RMS for these particular speakers, if you can get that, is 75. You got that there? So what that means is I can turn up the wattage to my radio very loudly, and it'll take a peak wattage of 225, but I can run it at a constant 75. This particular stereo, my aftermarket stereo that I bought, only pushes about 50 watts RMS on each channel, and that is not going to even come close to maxing out these speakers, and that's going to give me a really crisp sound. That's going to keep it simple. I'm not going to go into a lot of low frequency, high frequency, what kind of ohms and subwoofer wattage you're going to need. But just remember that if you are installing aftermarket products, make sure you install it correctly. And if you don't know how to do it, get a professional to install it for you. You can cause some major shortages and just create more of a headache than you'll ever really want. But if you are comfortable with electrical work and installing stuff like this, it can make it such a good improvement to your Jeep Wrangler. And you'll just be thrilled to death. Even with the top off, rolling down a windy road or a back road, you'll really appreciate the sound quality. Let's get to installing these guys. So I've got my kicker speakers here. Let's take a look and see what's inside. Boxes. It's like Christmas. I love opening new stuff. Here is a comprehensive guide to show you what to do if you ever get lost. I'm gonna put that aside because I don't really want that. I already know what I'm doing here. Or at least I'm gonna tell you guys I know what I'm doing here. And take a look at those beauties. Oh man, new screws. I always like seeing the product that comes with that. Look at this. Look at that beautiful faceplate. That is fantastic. That's gonna add some oomph and some muscle to an otherwise bland looking slot. And these 5 1/4 are definitely ready to go in. Okay, so you'll notice the kicker speakers came with a little wire and conveniently some harnessing that allows you just to plug it straight into the little posts. It's just a plug and play option. And that goes on firmly and it seats firmly. It doesn't release easily, which is great for a Jeep that constantly rocks up and down. And then you can just attach your wires straight up to the wires up there. Now, preferably what you're gonna do, which is what I'm gonna do today, is I'm going to attach both of my wires up here to the existing wire platform. I'm going to attach them, and then I'm going to bring the speaker up, attach this guy, and instantly put it into the holder. So let's do that next. So something you want to know about your Jeep TJ wiring here is you want to know which one's positive and negative, because it's always a good idea. If you ever forget, the TJ forums are an excellent source for figuring out which one is which. In this case, you want to know that the blue and white is your positive, and then the blue and the orange is your negative. And I'm going to go ahead and slip on these included adapters that conveniently Kicker provided. Shout out Kicker, way to go. You really made this job easy for me today. And I've got my electrical pliers, and I just simply crimp down without over crimping. I usually do it twice here, once on the flat side as well, and make sure by giving it a short tug that this is on. Now this is ready for my new wire to come into. I'll show you that right now. They have traditionally made the wire that they've given you with a black line for negative and the plain side that's solid gray for positive. So I'm going to get my crimpers ready here. You'll notice that there's a tight working space when you're dealing with these products. You can always lengthen them with the optional wires, but this one right here, it's going to go right inside there. I'll give it a couple of crimps here without really going to town on that crimping. Firm, but not too firm pressure. Now I've got a solid line and I'm ready for the other negative side. Just going to repeat the process for the negative. Something important to note when you're doing something like this is these connectors here have a plastic sleeve housing. The metal part that you crimp down is inside that, and it's located just a couple centimeters behind, and it's usually where it stops being fluted. And that's where you want to crimp down your first crimp after the fluting section. So you're right in there, right after the fluting section. That's where you're going to want to crimp down. Beautiful. So now it comes to putting your speaker in and your housing on. Now, as I said before, there's different types of these. This particular one, you're going to have to put the housing on as you install your speaker. and use the 4 speakers that you have. These came with new nice screws, thanks Kicker. And we're gonna have that housing on. Go ahead and attach the post, and you're gonna have firm pressure there. Now don't worry about if you bend these up the first time you do it, because I used to do that as well. As long as you don't break these things off, you're gonna be dealing with a good process there. Now if you do happen to break these posts off while you're putting these on, you can take the wire and solder it to these 2 post locations, and you will be effectively doing the same thing if you happen to break these off. Just to let you know, in case that happens. Not saying it ever happened to me, ever. And so we're gonna go ahead and continue with the install. I'm gonna line these up. Now, if you wanna take a mental note of what's going on here, you'll know that you have to hold this in place and put this screw in just a little bit in order for it to hold it in place. Now, here's what you need to know about this, okay? When you put this on and you put this in to your speaker housing, the speaker is going to be facing a certain direction. And you'll notice that it's facing, for me, sort of horizontally. If you don't care about that sort of thing, it's really not necessary for you to take note. But if you're like me and you're a little bit of a type A and you want to know that your speakers are facing the same direction, then it's good to know the location of these symbols when you're putting the speaker in. Not a big deal. Again, just something if you're type A like me, I like them facing the same direction. That's one side installed. Let's repeat the process on the other side, install that, and turn these bad boys on. So guys, I wanted to drop in a little tip here. So this side in particular, the brown and yellow is the positive side, and the blue and brown is the negative side. Now my awesome cameraman here had a really good tip. When you're doing this, just to remember what's negative and positive, put the positive wire toward the front of the car and the negative wire toward the back of the car when you're leaving it dangling, and that just keeps you a reminder of what's positive and negative. So I'm going to repeat the process on this side by combining all these wires and doing everything exactly the same, and I'm going to skip ahead to where the speakers have been installed and show you the after picture now that you've seen the before, and I'll see you there in a moment. Alright guys, so the old one's out and the new ones are in, and look how nice that looks. Man, that is some gorgeous speaker action. I've got both speakers going and I've turned it up loud like this. And I am happy. So that's your Jeep TJ rear soundbar speaker reinstall. A great easy DIY project, and thanks to Kicker for some great sounding speakers. If you liked it, subscribe, like my page so I can do some more of this fun install stuff. See you next time.